Nick Sunday nights this fall. Come for all new episodes of Drake and Josh.
Well, hello everybody. How's it going? My name is Johnny Cassidy, but you may legally be obligated to call me Johnny 2000, based on my YouTube channel. So I basically am a DVD collector, but I do like to have unnecessary opinions, as everybody does. So, without further ado, I am going to share another opinion that blatantly nobody has asked for. I wanted to rank the top 10 teen sitcoms across all mediums. These are not objective facts. This is just kind of how I experience these shows. You'll notice some flaws like missing shows or slightly out of the time range, but it's just because I'm kind of sticking to my own personal opinion. We are focusing only on the teen shows, not necessarily the ones that are outside of kids' channels like Malcolm in the Middle or any of those shows. We'll focus on specifically like Disney Channel, Nickelodeon, those teen shows. So what are live-action sitcoms? Live-action sitcoms are situation comedies. They're like television shows that feature real actors in a scripted scenario. Those shows typically center around a specific set of characters in a consistent environment, like a home, school, or workplace. The format is known for its episodic structure, usually with standalone episodes that are lighthearted and humorous. These shows often focus on like teen-related themes like friendship, relationships, work-life dynamics, and delivering humor that appeals to broad audiences. Now, what are the ones for kids specifically? The ones for kids specifically, they have a lot of the same traits as adult sitcoms, but tailored to younger audiences, like themes that more so resonate with kids and teens, like school exaggerated scenarios with over-the-top humor. Shows on networks like Disney Channel and Nickelodeon usually feature young protagonists, often played by relatable or aspirational characters kids could embody. The humor is always family-friendly, with jokes that kids find funny and also are adored. Really admire about teen shows is like they're always written from the perspective of a teenager, and I would say some of the best sitcoms like really lean into the nuances of like teen life, like the way somebody looks at you or an insecurity that they would only have in this specific generation at this point in time, and aren't afraid to kind of go absurd with the humor. Like, what would a teenager at this time find funny? And what kind of hijinks can these characters get into that would actually really draw in teen audiences? Because you're adults writing for kids, so it's really easy to fall into that pandering category. But these are shows that I think actually really safely do a really good job at not only complementing the medium of teen sitcoms, but also go above and beyond of making their own unique twist and vision for it. Now, I am going to be giving you my unwarranted opinion about all of these shows. Now, keep in mind, it is limited to the amount I've seen, and it is very personal to me, so therefore my opinions will be very vague and unnecessary. But as a DVD collector, it's important to know my expertise. And now remember, this is just my opinion, but I do advise it be taken very seriously. Now, it looks like first we're going to start off with number 10, which is going to be...
You started that fight! You calling me a liar? I ain't calling you a truther!
Drake and Josh. So Drake and Josh was on Nickelodeon from 2004 to 2007. Bottom of the list, but definitely a really good show. There's about 4 seasons, 57 episodes. It's on the list because Drake and Josh was kind of a staple for teen sitcoms. Like, they had a lot of funny sibling dynamics, absurd humor, memorable catchphrases, and it takes number 10 because it's the influence and how many people like really remember it. And this was definitely one of the things I would turn on when I was little, despite some recent news.
Maybe someday you'll get a fan letter like everyone else. Me, Zora, Grady, Nico, Marshall, me.
And it's time for number 9! Sunny with a Chance. It was on Disney Channel from 2009 to 2011. It had 2 seasons with about 47 episodes, and we're not going to talk about what happened with the 3rd season. So why it's on the list, this show offered such like funny behind the scenes look at teens in like a sketch comedy show, which is like kind of combining like the aspirations of wanting to be on Saturday Night Live, but also being a kid star or like a teen star at this point in time. It's funny how like they deal with like internet issues and like audience reception to their sketches, and I just always related to the Sonny Monroe character because I felt like I was just trying to be funny and more comfortable in my femininity than my masculinity. And who could forget that the Chad Dillon Cooper character and their relationship was just so interesting. Now here's a bit of an unexpected one. Number 8 is Naked Brothers Band. This one is usually forgotten. It was a Nickelodeon from 2007 to 2009. It had about 3 seasons and 42 episodes. So I forgot about this until like very recently when I was like re-looking in the seasons 1 and 2 DVDs for this show. And I learned a lot about this show that like one, it was filmed, it wasn't filmed in California like usual. It was kind of like it was written with like a lot of heart. And not only is it interesting because of its mockumentary style and catchy songs, it resonated with kids because it just felt so real. And it also leaned into the femininity of masculinity, I would say. Like, you would be so surprised with how well this show is written. Like, it's clear that, like, this was not written by, like, Hollywood writers for some of the episodes. Like, a lot of it was very, like, down to earth and talking about not understanding females or, like, kind of learning about social emotional issues, which is something I've never really seen in that time. And looking back, I was like, wow, I can't believe some of the plot lines for this show. They're just so intriguing and they're so relevant to what I felt as like a little boy growing up, not being, you know, my relationship to women and like how, and understanding them. It was very clear that the mother, who had a heavy hand in the creativity of this show, was really good at teaching her kids lessons through the plot lines of the show. So I highly advise you guys to look back on this show at this point in time and really appreciate what it was.
I heard you was liking me.
Well, I think you're an amazing athlete.
Oh, well, you know how I do.
Hey, would you want to work out together sometime?
Oh, and we got a classic. Number 7, That's So Raven. Super interesting show. It ran for 4 seasons with about 100 episodes on Disney Channel from 2003 to 2007. And this was like really cool because it somehow managed to break the barriers of like fantastical reality, where it's like they could still have plot lines that had to do with everyday teenage issues, but they got to throw in the twist of the main protagonist being able to see into the future, which is just so interesting because it's like, that's what keeps us watching, having a superpower and how it would affect, you know, growing pains and all these things in middle school. Like, it's just very fun to watch, and it makes you excited to go to school in your everyday. It's a good mix of like comedy, culture, and Raven-Symoné is just one of the most funniest people ever. Number 6, Big Time Rush.
Dartboard method's not working. What else did Gustavo say about songwriting?
He said stare into the eyes of the sun to find the killer hook.
And then we go to Big Time Rush, which was a Nickelodeon show from 2009 to 2013. They had 4 seasons and 74 episodes. This one is often a slept-on one. I really appreciated, not like the Naked Brothers Band depth, but it did get into really interesting topics of like the recording industry and kind of like how boy bands dynamics are in these settings. And it wasn't necessarily like a realistic portrayal of the recording industry, but it was cool how we got to kind of dive into the interpersonal relationships of these 4 boys in a boy band, especially in a time where boy bands were a big deal, like One Direction, 5 Seconds of Summer. Like, this time was very vital. I still listen to like all the songs stuck in my head. Big Time Rush. And their music was just so good. I now know that they actually had a heavy hand in writing songs for the show, which I thought is even more authentic of it. It's kind of like That's So Raven in the sense that, like, imagine you have these everyday issues of a teenager, but it's pulled to 10,000 because of one specific thing. The boy's getting into a whole career in music. And I really like how they set up season arcs that show a goal of Big Time Rush, you know, trying to either do a CD or going on a promotional tour. Like, it was always anchored in an overall arcing goal, which is why it's a little bit higher on that than That's So Raven for me, because I am a sucker for overarching goals and episodic goals. Number 5, I think, is going to be The Sweet Life of Zack and Cody.
Look out! Look out! I can't stop!
What is going on? If it's not one thing, it's Mama!
Then number 5, we got The Sweet Life of Zack and Cody. It was on Disney Channel from 2005 to 2008. They had 3 seasons and 87 episodes. So this is like one of the ones that is in everybody's childhood, which is why I couldn't necessarily dodge it. I also grew up with this, but maybe not as much as everybody else. It was a Disney Channel classic, also because, you know, the same thing with That's So Raven and what eventually Wizards would be is this,
What? How can you be such a jerk? How can you be such a jerk?
Excuse me?
Tell that jerk it's people like him who are killing our planet. I'd rather not.
the fact that they live in a hotel, it's like every kid's dream, but still suffer with mundane teenage issues like relationships and you know, arguments with parents. It's just it's so fun, and some of the funniest jokes ever are from these characters, like Mr. Mosby, London, like...
How? Can you give me $50 million?
I'll go check my piggy bank.
Its broad appeal and memorable supporting characters like make it secure at its place at number 5. Number 4, True Jackson VP. Yeah, it's a good show.
Are you sure? This is what BFFs do.
And BBSKs.
So number 4 is True Jackson VP. It's Nickelodeon from 2008 to 2011. 3 seasons, about 60 episodes. This one was definitely a shorter life than it deserved. It was probably one of my favorites because it had all the elements of a relatable teen sitcom, but then also, you know, the main protagonist with a big dream and something like that other kids can aspire to be, like being so good at something that you could be a teenager and the top level at an entire company. And let alone just like the jokes are just so well written. It's like just as good as any of the adult sitcoms out there. The characters are super relatable and funny, and I don't know, it was definitely given too short of a life for how good it was. And they're also good on Big Time. They were good in the same way Big Time Rush was, where they set up full season arcs of like her, you know, kind of working her way up through this ranking and dealing with adults. Like, I loved how mature those plot lines got of teenagers having disagreements with adults. It definitely deserves to be number 4. Number 3, Wizards of Waverly Place. Then we go to Wizards of Waverly Place. It's been on Disney Channel from 2007 to 2012. They had 4 seasons and 106 episodes. So it's on the list because it went full throttle in all the magic and was pretty unapologetic with it. You know, unlike That's So Raven or all these other shows that do have like one fantastical element, this leans into all the fantastical elements. And it was nice because it wasn't like everybody was trying to do that. It was like Wizards of Waverly Place really owned the fact they were throwing a million superpowers at the wall. Like, it was all these other shows I listed, but times 100. And Selena Gomez is just so good at Alex Russo, and having a flawed main character, unlike an aspirational main character, just made it so much easier for comedy and fun. And obviously the dynamics between the kids and the parents, like, there was just something so magical about this show, unironically. And it really deserves to be the top 3 contender. Number 2, iCarly.
Beautiful, I need the world to see.
Number 2, I'm putting as iCarly. It ran on Nickelodeon from 2007 to 2012, which is exactly the same as Wizards. But they had 6 seasons and about 97 episodes. So iCarly is really stood out to me because, I mean, unlike the fantastical elements, like, it took the idea of technology and how social media was going and kind of predicted everything that it would eventually become. And I love that the first couple seasons, it did get a little off topic after season 3, but the first 3 seasons were pure gold of, like, just showing what these teenagers would go through. And, I mean, it wouldn't be so high if everything in that show didn't end up becoming a reality, like having, you know, super fans or only communicating to people through the internet. And it was just ahead of its time, and I will never get that out of my head, so that's why it's always going to be number 2 for me. And it was just so funny. It was like the humor of Drake and Josh with the cleverness of all the other Disney Channel shows. It was just somehow the best culmination of all these things. Number 1 spot.
We're such big fans.
We love your music.
You're pretty. And number 1, well, I guess that makes it 2. 1, Hannah Montana. Hannah Montana. Yeah, Hannah Montana went on Disney Channel from 2006 to 2011, and it is no doubt to my friends that this is my favorite. They've had 4 seasons of 98 episodes, and the reason it's number 1 is, like, it was the ultimate teen show of its generation. Miley Cyrus was one of the best global superstars thanks to her role as Miley Stewart and her pop star alter ego. It is just so fun. It was like the core of where Wizards came from, where True Jackson VP came from, where you're putting... It's so high up because it was one of the shows that brought in this idea of a main character. To imagine you were Miley Stewart and hiding this pop star persona, but also dealing with the fame. It's like taking all the moral and ethical lessons from iCarly, but grounded in relatable themes and balancing normal life with fame. And I wouldn't have put it in number 1 if it was so cool how they fully had Miley's secret come out and dealt with the aftermath of that. It brought the show to a whole new level that none of the other shows on this list were even able to get to. Oh my gosh, I can't believe you're still here. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe if you want some DVD content or 2000s nostalgia content. I am Johnny 2000 reporting. Gone.